So as we know, Korea is very different from my home country of the USA, America. And through marriage, I've also learned a little bit more about some differences that we have in the way that we view relationships and the way that we go about them, etc. So I thought I would talk today about some things that I learned from being married here in Korea. The very first thing that I learned was that marriage is duty. And it's quite different from like kind of what we see like in the Hollywood and in media and stuff. And I feel like kind of our view of marriage like in America is a bit more romanticized. It's like this romantical kind of Disney kind of fairy tale type thing that we like view with marriage. I feel like sometimes we lose a lot of the duty. And a lot of people in marriage just think about, you know, the things that they want to get. Like I want to get married so I can get this and I can get that and I can have love and happiness and stuff like that. But I notice in a lot of Asian countries like they view marriage as duty. Of course, you know, people love each other like when they get married, but there's more of an aspect on the things that you need to contribute and things that you need to do in the relationship to keep it afloat. And I notice when people think of marriage here, they think less about, okay, what am I going to be getting? Like, give to me. And there's less of this sort of entitled feeling for what you think you should be getting in marriage. And people tend to focus on how they can make it work and the things that they need to do within that marriage. And one thing that I noticed is instead of people getting their happiness from what they're getting, like I'm happy when my partner's just doing this for me, or when I'm getting this love, or when I'm getting the things I feel like I'm entitled to get, is people feel more happiness in knowing that they fulfilled their duty in marriage. And I think that's something that's actually really nice because you can't really control what other people do, right? You can't control, like, if someone's going to do something for you that day, but you can control the things that you're doing. And I think when your happiness comes from a sense of fulfillment for doing the things that you're supposed to do to keep the marriage running, then I feel like that leads to much longer happiness as opposed to just, what can I get, what can I get, what can I get? So let's compare, like, marriage to, like, a business or something, right? So for a business to run well, the employee should always be doing their job. If the boss said, you know what, you can just work when you feel like it, and everyone only worked when they felt like it instead of what you have to do every day, then the business might not go so well. And so I feel like with marriage it's similar. Like you don't always feel like doing things that you're supposed to do all the time, but that's just kind of part of it. And this is just a very light example. It's the only thing that just kind of popped into my head right now. But this is not something that Moon said, I need you to get me my coffee every day. But it's just kind of something that I like to do in the morning is to make Mr. Moon coffee. Sometimes I don't feel like getting his cafe latte in the morning, but I know it makes him happy and it keeps our marriage going. And when he sees that I'm getting up to get him his cafe latte, even if I want to be sleeping in, it makes him happy too. It makes him want to keep doing things, you know, for me. So we just keep giving to each other and each other and each other, and we continue to like thrive in that way, right? It's not about what you want to do, it's what you have to do for the marriage, because once you get married, it's the marriage. You do things for the marriage, right? Of course you can still do things like for yourself, but if those things are undermining the marriage, then you probably shouldn't do it. And another thing that I noticed is those feelings of love tend to stay and continue to happen when both people are fulfilling their role and doing their duties in the marriage. Things work out that you put effort into. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it did. Take from it what you want. So the next thing that I learned is that you should always want to be your best self and kind of always be upgrading and improving, like self-improving yourself. Self-improving yourself. How redundant was that? So what I mean is, like, for example, you know, I've had friends who were engaged and they both said, wow, since I'm engaged, this person wants to marry me, I should be my best self. Let me start going to the gym and eating healthy so we can live a long, healthy life together and I could be like my fittest self because this person chose me, right? They're stuck with me. They can only be with me. So I need to always be my best self and remain healthy and fit, etc. As opposed to saying, well, we're married now, I don't have to go to the gym anymore. Like, that's not what you really want to do, right? You want to always be trying to be, you know, your best self and taking care of yourself, and not just, you know, for something like taking care of your body, but in terms of your personality and the things that you're learning and growing and maturing with as well. I know, like, for me, like, after I got married, it kind of was a push. It made me be like, wow, okay, well, someone chose me, and this person's only going to be with me, so I need to do the best that I can to be, like, upgrading and improving myself. And that's something that my husband does a lot as well, and I've noticed a lot of people around me doing that as well, and it's something that I think that is quite beautiful. And I think when you have two people who are constantly working on themselves and wanting to do their best and be their best, then that naturally keeps the relationship going as well. A lot of people here think of marriage as kind of like something we need to work at together. It's not something that either just matches or doesn't, right? Any good marriages that you've seen have a lot of work, and I feel like a lot of people tend to just kind of know that here, and it's kind of something that's more in the culture. So the next thing that I've kind of learned to do here is I've really learned to embrace the differences between men and women. I feel like sometimes in the West we like to ignore that there are differences between men and women, but I feel like here in Korea people understand that there are differences, and it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. But they don't demonize any characteristics that are inherently masculine or feminine. People allow for people to play to their strengths, especially in relationships, and I think that's something that's really nice. And the beauty of it is you're not necessarily bound to the expectations that people have of this is man and this is woman. Society is not saying you must have traditional gender roles. But if you want to do that, people don't seem to demonize you, where I feel like sometimes in the West now, I mean, I was like that. Like, I remember when I was in high school about to go to college, I had a friend and all she wanted to do was just get married and have kids. And she wanted to have a lot of kids. So she did that right out of high school. And I remember kind of judging her like, ew, why would you do that? You have no ambitions. So then I kind of like really stopped talking to her because I thought, oh my God, what is that? Like, why would you just want to do that? And like, live with a man who makes the money and do that. Like, be independent, have some ambition and stuff. Like, that was kind of how I used to think about women who wanted to do that. But one thing that Korea has taught me is that, you know, everyone like chooses what they want to do. If a woman wants to take on a traditional role and that's what she wants to do, then we shouldn't tell her she's wrong for wanting to do that. You know, I think we should be able to choose what we want to do, and people shouldn't look down on people who want to do those traditional roles in that way. I used to be one of those people who looked down on women like that as I was going to college, getting my degree that I'm not using at all. In debt. Not anymore, but was in debt. She ain't got no debt, and she got like 4 kids, and she's happy. I see her on Instagram. So, oh, and growing up too, like my parents were always like, yeah, be independent, do this, like, don't depend on no man, don't need no man. And now that I'm married, I'm like, I needed him. Where have you been, Mr. Moon? Okay. Where have you been? Like, why didn't I meet you? No, if I had met him when I was 22, he might not have liked me, because Mr. Moon, my husband, he likes to feel like needed. And at that time, I was kind of like anti anything. Like, I don't need no help from no man. Mr. Moon, he loves like carrying things and like doing things and just being helpful. And I think in the past, like old Megan would have thought like, oh, it's because he thinks I can't do it. I can do pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, 20 pounds strapped to me. I can do a pull-up. I don't need you to carry my bag. But yeah, now I'm like, yeah, I could do it. But one thing that I've noticed about men, one of those inherent traits that men have, is they like to feel needed and to feel as though they're helpful and they're contributing. Is one of the things that drives them to want to do more and do better. So I noticed with Mr. Moon, I can get him to do more things, more chores, by saying, oh yeah, you know, I really need your help. The last time you did it so well. It was just so amazing. So he organized the whole pantry, and I was like, not have to deal with those things, because that's something that he just likes to do, like to feel helpful in those ways. And so I've kind of learned to just like accept like the help and know and understand that, you know, a man stepping in to like help you or something is not saying because you can't do it or you're incompetent. I've noticed it's just something that they feel great like when they're helping their women and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if I had met Moon when I first came here, he wouldn't have liked me. So I'm kind of glad that it took this long for me to meet him. I met him when I was 28. Yeah, when I was 28, I was about to turn 29. That's when we met. So by that time, I had already learned it, and I was like, please, someone bring me a man. Anyway, I rambled on at the end, but I just thought that was something interesting, and I would just share a little way that I was able to, like, learn and grow, etc.